let's get on to some witchy goodness. Agatha
Yes.
All Along. We said like it's weird because we're like over halfway through the season now, but it's only the second time we've got to discuss the show.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird. I love this show. It
I'm
is
really enjoying it.
it is everything I've been saying I want more comic book properties to be. They don't need to, comic books aren't a
Yeah.
genre. Can we stop acting like comic books are a
Yeah.
genre? They're not. It's a style of media that has its own subgenres. You've got horror comic books, you've got sci-fi comic books, you've got fantasy comic books, and this seems to have really nailed that. Yeah, they're comic book characters. It's all comic book IP, but the genre is witchcraft and
Mm.
trickery and it's fucking paying dividends. I'm loving it. It's so much fun.
I love that Marvel has sort of found this unique way of showing magic, and that is through visual style. And none of us are questioning it because it's like they walk into a house, completely different vibe, different style of outfits, like it's a different era, and we're like, yeah, it's just magic. And then they leave the house, trail, or whatever, and they're back to the normal outfits. And it's like, this makes sense. And we got that in Wonder, also about magic. And I'm so okay if this is how Marvel deals with like magic. Is like, oh, we're just gonna have fun creatively because that's a fun way to show it.
The beauty of magic is it's magical. It
Yeah.
doesn't really need to follow any rules because guess what? If you understood the rules of magic, you wouldn't view it as magic, you'd view it as science. Is like always been the idea. So them being witches who understand it is magic, yeah, they understand how to manipulate it slightly, but they know they don't own it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like they just kind of roll with the punches. And because all of the characters collectively roll with the punches because they know magic's a bit wacky, you
Yeah.
as a viewer don't question it.
Yeah.
You're like, the people who know about magic aren't worried. I'm not worried.
I also love how we said it last time we were talking about this, but the way they're nailing this blend between like the fun kind of vibe of this showing the witches and the magic and these different styles and the kind of have fun in that sense, and then it flips to just pure horror and like the most serious like witch shit, and you're like, oh, this is some wild, creepy shit that's going on, and then it's like right back to like some witty.
Yeah.
I mean, the
So
70s outfits or what 70s disco outfits, whatever it was, that like, but the proper ABBA looking outfits.
yeah, from episode 4 when they were doing
Yeah,
that trial.
I
Yeah.
was just like, the ones in the house. I was like, this is just like looking at ABBA, the Beatles, Elton John. It's all of that just like blended.
I'm enjoying that the trials are designed around characters. I think that's
Yes.
brilliant. Obviously, we ended episode 3 with Mrs. Hart dying after the first trial.
Oh yeah.
I said I thought that Teen was responsible for the death. You said, no, I think you're full of shit, essentially. And the evidence is pointing towards I might be right. We're still waiting for absolute definition on that. I will explain my working.
Okay.
So in episode 4,
Hmm.
he goes, I can't believe she died. And Agatha kind of goes, can't you? As if to go that she, like, Agatha thinks he was up to something and he wasn't squeaky clean in what occurred. Which on its own you can just brush past.
Yeah.
But then when you view the fact that they came back with Aubrey Plaza's character, they like summoned her.
Hmm.
The Funko Pops from the show have led us to believe that she is playing Lady Death.
Oh.
Agatha wouldn't have wanted Lady Death there.
Interesting.
Yes. And then obviously we won't. I mean, we can spoil it straight off. The reveal at the end of episode 5 that he is in fact Wiccan.
Okay. I presumed by the headgear and like
the blue, yeah,
and obviously it not being Agatha's son, and that being pretty clear that that is the case. I was like, surely this is Wiccan then, and this is Scarlet Witches.
And him just not giving a fuck about killing the other 3.
Mm.
Or seemingly putting them in a very close situation to death. They probably aren't dead, but like pretty fucking close.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he deliberately killed Mrs. Hart, But I think he was involved in her death. I think she was savable. There is still something about that whole situation that is fishy to me. He's involved in her death, or he could have saved her and chose not to.
I'm trying to remember, because obviously they made a good point that she drank 2 doses of wine.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember if like he had some part in passing her the glass or something, so she drank more wine. I can't
The
remember.
big red flag to me was, and I'm just thinking about this as like the way I've always watched media is I notice things that seem off.
Mm.
And him huddled over the body in the background of a shot before announcing she was dead felt like it took a little bit too long. And normally, when something like that happens in the background, that's a little bit too focused on,
I get you.
and it lingers, it means it's like, look at that. There's more to it than meets the eye.
Also,
Which is why I'm biting on this and not letting it go like a rabid dog.
I mean, obviously now they've revealed, I'm like, okay, he's a lot more suspicious and everything's done. I'm thinking back to like how Wanda was done, where some of those things in the early shows were like hidden details of what was actually going on. It could like we know it's leaning on similar things they did in Wanda. It very much there's going to be stuff from early on that we thought nothing of. That actually, I also did like that Agatha made a point saying, "Oh well, we don't use sigils because even the person that did it can forget, and like, or they could do it on themselves, or that there's this kind of." And then suddenly it clicks. Obviously, then he put that on himself so that they wouldn't know.
Reveal his identity.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I'm
oh,
And my other last bit of evidence, which is purely anecdotal about why I think he was responsible for Mrs. Hart's death, he reacted to Agatha kind of mentioning his mother. Mrs. Hart kind of badmouthed Agatha a couple of times, rightfully so. She did imprison the entire town, but there was a couple of times that it kind of got mentioned, and she got a bit touchy about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, very very cool. And like we were saying, everyone on the internet kind of knew he was Wiccan.
Yeah.
But today, I saw a lot of people going, even though we knew before the show, they did a very good job of making it still a surprise when the reveal happened.
Well, I think it was like last time we were talking, like there's a couple of directions he could have actually been, and they were quite clearly leaving it very open and kind of misdirecting a bit to then in a really sudden, like pretty aggressive reveal, which I do think helped sell it a lot as well. Like it wasn't a case of like us kind of realizing that it was Wiccan. It was like suddenly everything's changed tone, and it's like, oh shit, this is all been a ruse.
Yeah, for real, for real. But yeah, the vibes were immaculate. The trial in episode 2 was really cool.
You mean episode 4?
Yeah, sorry. The second trial was really cool.
Yeah.
Bringing Aubrey Plaza into the Coven and down Witch's Road to get her more involved. Very cool. This kind of back and forth game that Agatha and Aubrey's characters are playing, alongside the whole group, and like the you've got layers of trust here. Agatha doesn't really trust anyone. No one really trusts Agatha. The other witches and Wiccan can't trust Aubrey and Agatha because there's something going on there, but they don't know what it is. You've got the witches that were kind of brought into the coven, don't trust anyone, but they kind of trust each other a little bit because they have to, because otherwise they're fucked. Everyone kind of blindly trusts Teen and assumes that he's pure and innocent with the way they're talking.
He's just a teenager. Yeah.
So like, oh, make sure you're careful about Agatha, and like the protective witch trying to protect him and stuff like that. It's beautiful because a lot of the episode they are just kind of cutting about like a family, like they all love each other and they're best friends in the world. And then, like I say, it kind of just turns on a dime, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, so are we killing Agatha now? Which is basically what happened in episode 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, Agatha, we'll get you through this trial.
It's like, oh, we need to punish Agatha. Sure, no problem. Here we go. Yeah. It was just like, oh.
Shank that bitch.
Oh yeah, honest, the trials have been really fun. And like you said earlier, like the fact that it's focused on a character is such a great way to kind of sell this. Each one being a different house, different vibe. It's such a smart, creative way to do this. And then the in between bits, like having the creepy ones reappear, the 7 or whatever it is,
the Salem 7.
yeah, and then the broomstick thing. I loved the whole thing of like, wait, so why don't you guys use broomstick? Oh, because it's become a mainstream thing now to just be commercialized. And also
it's been stolen by white girls for Halloween, so we just can't.
And then also it's kind of just a symbol of domesticated women that we. It's like, this is not wrong, but
and also that writing pisses off the kind of people I like to see pissed off. So like, I'm just kind of.
I also, going on the Wiccan, knowing like being more obviously in control of the situation, them being like, oh, it's fine to try to keep up, and he perfectly is flying a broom. But no one questions that. Also, on the Aubrey thing, I loved when they were all, the Witch's Road was forcing them to come back down. They're all screaming, and she does the most witch cackle ever. Like, purely embodying that character.
I would be surprised if that was literally like an OG, like 1960s witch cackle they've put over the top of that. It sounded like her actual voice.
I reckon
it's been a really good one, but it was such a good, like, that I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if they've just overlaid like one they had in the archives.
I would more believe that it's like a case of they were all meant to scream, and she decided, I'm going to do like the most perfect witch cackle.
So good. It was such a good witch cackle. I completely agree. Now, one thing that is worth talking about in episode 5, especially, when I forget the protective witch's name dies. Did you notice that Agatha absolutely did deliberately steal her power?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It did happen quite quickly, but the ghost clearly leaves her body.
Yeah. And then she ramps up
before trying to take the power, which is then even more confirmed when she's outside and she's like playing with her fire.
Yeah.
Before the others come out and call her out on her shit.
Oh yeah, like Agatha is also playing them all. Her hope is she doesn't give a shit what the Witch's Road gives her. I reckon the fact that she mentioned she left with one last time is she probably did the same thing, stole the power of all the other ones and left with one of them because you need 2 to leave. She was probably going to do this. That's her plan all along. Yeah. Isn't anything to do with what
to leave with Teen.
Yeah, it's like she knows she's going to get put through trials, which is going to put her in a situation to get power off of them, and that's how the road's going to help her. The road's not actually going to do anything for her. So yeah. It's all just everyone's playing their own game.
And we need to remember that Agatha is a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
But don't get me wrong. She's very likable when she's not doing evil shit, which is what makes her such a good bad guy. But she is a bad guy. That's
the thing. It's like when Wiccan... Obviously, I don't really know if Wiccan's meant... Is he good in the comics?
He's good in the comics. I don't know if he was always good, though.
Okay.
He might have started a little bit more grey area.
Obviously,
he's
like...
a hero.
He, like... throws Agatha in this mud and potentially kills her. And I'm like, oh shit, he's just... And I'm like, hang on, Agatha's bad. Why do I care if Agatha dies? Like, this isn't a bad thing.
For a show that no one asked for...
Yeah.
The numbers for it are also very good.
Oh, fair. I haven't looked at the numbers.
Its first episode did like 10 million in a week.
Nice.
So for a show that no one asked for and no one's going to watch, Disney are pretty fucking happy. One thing I've seen a lot of people say on Twitter, which I hadn't considered, but they are also completely right about, it's also the first Marvel Disney Plus show that is written and shot like a TV show, not like a film.
Oh, since the changes. Yeah. Yeah, because each trial is being done as an episode.
Yes. The episode is ending on a cliffhanger. Because if it was shot like a film and then just cut up, that kind of cliffhanger ending would make no sense.
Yeah.
But this is like...
Do you know what's funny though? That's
episode setting up, trial.
That's back. Like, what they did with Wanda was like, it was a different style each episode, and they were doing it like... It's almost like they've gone back through their shows and we kicked things off with Wanda, and it was a hit, and everyone loved it. And now people aren't liking our shows. How have we strayed away?
Yeah.
They've looked at that, gone,
Make TV shows.
and they've gone back. And it helps that obviously this is in the same sphere as Wanda, so they can kind of keep that style and lean on those things that they know people enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I'm all for it. The question is, when we get Vision Quest, because he is technically also from this sphere,
Mm-hmm.
do we
I
also
think I
get
just
do we get a Vision that each episode is a different robot style? Vision is like a iRobot, and then as a
I just I'm loving the show.
yeah, same.
You are right. They've got back to that kind of more episodic formula of TV that we saw in WandaVision. I need them to stick the landing, which they
Mm.
kind of, in my opinion, failed to WandaVision. Um,
Mm.
I need them to keep going. It's great. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm curious where it goes. The most popular
Yeah.
theory that I'm seeing and that I agree with is that Billy's goal is at the end of Witch's Road to ask for his mum back, and that's how we get Wanda back.
Ooh. I after the Wiccan reveal, I was like, okay, maybe my theory that Wanda does show up in this or shown that she's alive somehow does happen. It could be a case, I hadn't thought of like him using the Witch's Road for that. But what if it is she's trapped somewhere and he finds out? It's more just he asks where she is and he gets to know, and then that's what he's gonna go and try and do.
The only thing I don't want this show to do is kind of redeem Agatha. I don't
Yeah,
want her to become a hero off the back of this. Marvel's biggest issue since the dawn of it has been it doesn't have recurring villains.
I get yeah.
The only villains who've recurred have been Loki and Thanos, technically.
Yeah.
Loki ended up being a hero by the end, which is fine. That did make sense for his arc.
Yeah.
Thanos is dead.
Yeah.
Everyone else is dead or becomes a good guy. There is no in between. We need. It's a comic book universe that relies on recurring villains.
Do you know what I actually think would be a really good way for them to end this? Is like Wiccan gets to ask the question of where's his mum or get his mum back. And it shows like some teaser of she's alive. And then it does like a post credit scene right at the end where we see like what say he's left Agatha in the mud. Suddenly it's just her crawling out of the mud, like oh, just a hand to show she's still alive.
Yeah.
And because she was left in such a way that Wiccan had tried, or someone had tried to kill her, she's obviously then still going to want revenge and still be evil. I think there's a good way that if they leave her and show that she's alive when we all think she's dead, everyone will go, oh, she's going to come back for revenge.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is we've still got 4 episodes, so I just don't think they leave her in the mud of her own show for 4 episodes.
No, I don't think so. But I do think something at the end is going to make us think she's dead. Or she gets
Oh, quite
left on the
possibly.
Witch's Road or something, and the whole thing is she's got to try and figure out how to get out. Because
Yeah,
you
quite
need
possibly.
2. Maybe there's 3 of them left and they ditch her. Or something
Yeah,
like that.
maybe. Leave her stranded on the Rich's
Yeah.
Road. Would make sense.
But yeah, very much enjoying the show. I look forward to tomorrow.
Absolutely.